Unicorn t-shirt is firmly in place. Time to get forging. Oh yeah. So a little bit different this one. I have been asked to do my first commission, which is just some nice simple curly-whirly gate letters, the K and the R, for two friends of mine. I mentioned in another video that I went to some leaving drinks, and basically it's for them. I reckon I can probably get this done quite quickly, thanks to the steel horse. I think the simple heating and shaping of metal bar I've become relatively competent at, so I'm hoping to smash this out relatively fast. So yeah, I'm just going to get probably I think 4 pieces of the bar metal, shape it as you can see, and then I just need to flatten certain areas to get the kind of calligraphy sort of style, and then I've got to paint it with the black metal paint again, and then that should be done. So nothing for it but just to get on with it, really. There you go, the forge is lit. It's still warming up, but I've stuck the first bit of bar in, which I think is going to be this piece coming down and around. I think that will just about be long enough, that piece of bar. So yep, that's first job. Okay, so first point of call, I'm just going to put in the point at the end of this piece of metal. Right, so we're going to put this top little curve now in the higher part of the K. I'm just comparing it. I've got a bit of paper just off camera here, so a little bit too much there, so we'll flatten that part back out. That looks about right. So we're there. Just tie it up a little bit, make sure it's all flat and flush. There we go. Right, next part. Nothing fancy, just getting it how I want it. That's better. And what I'll do is I'll put a little mark in there, so I know where I'm bending next. Yeah. Nice little hook on the end, just the flick of the K. Right, so I've marked my piece of metal where I need to put the bend in, which is that way. I think the plan is to pretty much almost fold this double. Similar to what I did with the horse ears. Oh, this is awkward. There we go. So I've got it folded pretty much double. Just straighten that out a bit. And then what I'll do in a minute is I'll get this off the edge of the anvil and I'll do these sort of glancing blows, so just here, which would give it a nice sort of point. What I'll need to do is I'll need to flatten out this sort of underneath section here. What I'll normally do is I'll use my little £2 flat hammer for shaping the metal, but when I want to flatten it or stretch it, I've got this this £4 rounding hammer, and as you're hitting that, it not only sort of shapes it, but it also straightens or flattens and stretches the metal out sideways. So I'll be doing that to get the sort of calligraphy style, the thicker parts of the letter. Right, so we're now going to hit this point off the far edge of the anvil. There we go, got a nice point on there now. Still needs a little bit of shaping, I think. All I'm doing here is just very gently tidying and shaping. I need a very gradual bend. You need to heat the metal exactly where you want the bend to start happening. Otherwise, just via the sort of path of least resistance, the metal will bend where the hottest part is, regardless of whether that's where you're hitting or not. So, I'm constantly just checking it up against my rough sketch so that I know it's in the right area. Probably use slightly more of a bend actually. There we go, nice and smooth now. It's easier to do the shaping, like fine detail shaping it, when the metal starts to reduce to a lower temperature. If you want to do big movements, you know, big movements of metal, you want it hotter, but for the fine detail shaping, you want it nice and cool. All I'm doing on this heat is just shaping that point again, just getting it exactly how I want it. And then I'll probably just put the starts of that little bend in the next downwards spike of the K. Like so. Sorry, I'm just doing the fine tuning, if you like, getting the shape exactly how I want it, which is about there. You can see that. So now this part's going to come down, do a loop-the-loop round and under. Hopefully I've got enough metal there. Should just about be able to get away with that, I think. Not that much. We'll see.
It's getting harder and harder to hold on to because the rest of the metal's staying hot, so trying to do the shaping now.
It's getting a little bit trickier until this half here starts to cool down, so I've got a better thing I can hold on to. But we've got the start to that bend going. A little bit high actually, need to straighten that slightly. A more gentle curve in it. Even more so. There we go. opening it. So just the beginnings of that loop, which I need to probably bring down a little bit deeper actually. I think I'll do that on the next heat, because otherwise I'm going to risk breaking what I've got so far. Well, actually, looking at that doesn't look too bad. Yeah, you know what, I'll mark that, and we'll carry on from there. Here. There you go. I'll mark it with the chisel each time I know where I want to put the bend. Because, yeah, pen doesn't exactly stay once you blast it with fire in a furnace. So, carrying on with the loop, I'm going to bring it over to the horn, so I can put that more aggressive, oh, that's hot, that more aggressive shape onto it. Oh, ouch, 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 ouch. Holding it too high up where the heat was. There we go. Let's just check our... Again, very slightly too far up, so we'll just straighten that slightly. Making sure each time that we're flattening it out in between. I don't know if you can hear what I'm saying, by the way, I'm really sorry if you can't. I'm sort of talking to myself as I go. So, there we go. I can open that slightly by hand. Ow, that's very hot. Holding it by the hot bit, clever Phil. Yeah, that's getting there. Gradually, but that is getting there. Cool. Okay, so next part will be to work on the topper part of the bend, so bringing it round and down here.
I'm doing it, just going to ship this curl. I want it. Trust me when I say it's easier said than done. It sticks on the handle, you can probably see.
What I think I'll have to do is I'll have to make this curl much tighter, because I've miscalculated just how much metal I've got here. This tail is supposed to be much longer, so if I obviously make that smaller, I'll have more of a tail to curl round. And then also, where I'm going to be tapering this down to a point, that will add a little bit extra length to it, which I think I'm probably going to do now while it's stuck out like that, because it's going to be really difficult to do it once it's bent. So I'll start working on that very point now. There we go. Point added, so that's giving me another, probably about 1.5 inches there on the end, which is still not enough, but it's more than I had to play with originally, so can't really complain. Getting there. Getting there, getting there. Gotta put the, so now I'm gonna make this slightly tighter like I said, and I'm gonna bring this tail out and round. So I'll do that over the next probably couple of heats I would imagine. Oh, do you know what? I'm going to start doing that shaping again because it's just not playing ball at the moment. And it's all gone wrong. I was worried this might happen. I created a bit of a cold shut. I'll be able to pick that up, hang on. I created a bit of a cold shut in the bend of the K. And sure enough, just by trying to slightly bend this, that snapped off, even though that's not where the stress was. So, starting again. That's very annoying. Oh well. So it took a while, but I've redid this this section along here, the curly whirly bit, and there it is. I did leave this section here a little bit longer. I just thought that looked kind of nice. What I've got to do now, obviously, is this section. But the trouble is I haven't got any pieces of rod long enough, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend into pieces bit by bit, and I'll probably end up welding it together to make the one long piece. So I'm going to start off with this bottom bend, and then we'll just carry on from there, really. Check out the skill of that piece. Yep. So that's obviously the tail bit here. I'm currently doing this twist up to about there, which is in the forge at the moment. Just the other way around. I'm just heating up the tail end to put the last little curl in, and then unfortunately that's too short as well, so I'll need to weld again another part just to do this final curl up here. So yeah, it's getting there, it's getting there. Just like that. So we've now got obviously all the way up and round, and then I just need to do this last little spiral here. It's still in two pieces at the moment, so I'll need to weld it all, but I'm going to wait till I've got all three bits done before I do that. So last bit from about here, I think. If I leave it a bit long, then I can always cut it off if I need to. I'm going to be interesting doing that tight little spiral at the end. There we are, there's my little pigtail. So that will pick this up, that will attach to this. Something like that. Maybe. And then obviously the other part will connect to the bottom. So the next stage is to weld those together, grind them back, and then we will weld the whole thing to the rest of the K. And then that'll be done. Hopefully. There we go, weld number one done. It's all now one piece. Let's see how it measures up. That's not bad. I'll take that and run. All welded together. Yeah, so that is now the back of the K. So once that's all welded up, it'll look something like that. Thereabouts. So yeah, next step. Just got to weld it together. Simple as. What I'm doing just before I weld the two pieces together is I've just stuck it back in the forge, and I'm just going to bring it back up to critical, get it red hot, so that these shiny bits disappear back and it looks more like this forge finish. Because it'll look a bit weird otherwise with all of that dark and then just two big shiny patches. So that's all I'm going to do, just heat up that part to red and then heat up that part to red, and then I'll bring it back out and weld it together. Just like that. There we are, that's now been all coloured together. You would never be able to tell that that was three separate pieces unless you looked in crazy detail. You can just about see a join there, but it's now in keeping with the rest of it. So the last step, once this cools down a little bit, because it's still very hot, is to weld those together, something like that. And then it's done. I'm not going to do the R today. I'm going to save that till tomorrow or later. This actually, I'm afraid to say I underestimated how long it was going to take, so there we are. It's getting there though. And there it is, all done. One letter K. Not as easy as I thought it was going to be honest with you. The main difficulty I had was that trying to get the bit of metal I was trying to heat in the forge, with all these curves and bends, I couldn't always, like if I was trying to get the heat here, because I've got the two sides of the forge blocking it, I couldn't actually get this part to heat. So this first part, like I say, was not easy. The second part, which I did step by step, was much easier. So even though it's probably not as, you know, might be cheating a little bit, I think that's what I'm going to do with the R tomorrow, just to save myself time and effort. And you know what, I don't think you'd even notice the difference. You can't really see it there at all. So yeah, I'm going to do it bit by bit tomorrow. And then once I've got them both done, the last thing to do will be just to give it a total paint with the hammered black paint I used on the horse sculpture. And then yeah, that'll be done. And it can go and hang on somebody's gatepost. One thing that I forgot to mention, I decided against doing the sort of flatter sections, partially because this bar I don't think would actually flatten that much, not really noticeable, and I think the thinness of the material would make it look weird and distorted. So that was reason one. Reason two was because where I was putting these welds in, these thicker sections, I don't think the welds would hold very well, like up here, here. So that was reason two. And reason three, I think it just actually looks better like that. You look at that one compared to that one looks a bit sort of weird and sausagey, whereas that looks quite cool and sleek, I think. So yeah, I'm going to do that with the R as well. I'm going to forget the sort of going for the calligraphy style and just keep it nice and swirly and pretty, but consistent. Day 2. So obviously today we're working on this letter, because we are. The only difference I've got to do is I've got to extend the tail on it like I did with the K. So I'm going to be following from here upwards to the template, and then from down here I'm just going to be elongating this section again. That's pretty much it really, just get on with it. So I'm cleaning out my forge after yesterday, and I've come across the two biggest bits of slag I've ever seen for such a small forge. That's ridiculous. But it's bloody horrible stuff. Yeah, anyway, have to get rid of this. Forge is lit and is roaring away nicely. Give that a few minutes to heat up and then we'll start forging. I had to buy some more steel since yesterday. So the first thing I'm going to do today is I need to cut this piece down to length. So I've got it in the forge at the moment, midway through, and you can normally tell when it starts to get hot. If you've got it covered like that where you can't physically see the bar, you can normally tell when it starts to get hot because the bar starts to droop. It starts to go out of line. And that's just basically because the bar itself is so heavy, and where the metal starts to get so soft, it just starts to bend itself. So I've just got to wait for that to happen now. There you go, you see there, you've got a definite curve going throughout the bar now. So the next thing to do is to take that out, chisel it down the middle, and then I can start working with the two separate pieces. So like I said yesterday, what I'm going to do with the R is I'm going to do it in bits rather than try and do one long piece. So this bit here will be simple enough because that's just short in and of itself. This part I'm probably going to do the spiral, cut it mid-high, do this part here, cut it midway, and then do the tail, I think. So 4 pieces in total, and I'm hoping this will take me less time than it did yesterday, with less mistakes. So first of all, I'm going to get this bit up to red again, and then I'm going to put the point in. So we're just going to hammer in that nice rounded taper. Ta-da! Next, need to put this initial curve in. Nice and simple today. Right, first part done. Oops, don't stab the paper. Simple as that, you get the idea. Next, I think I'm going to do this top curl, like I say, up to maybe about here. Depends how much steel I've got. There's the spiral done. See how that measures up. Again, this is only a rough diagram, so I'm not too worried if it's not exact, but that's pretty close. I'll take that and run. So yeah, obviously next part, going down and around. Simple, right? God, we are flying through this one. Doing it section by section like this is so much easier. So I've obviously now finished this particular part. The R. Up. Perfect, nice little rrr. So last bit, tail. Simples, right? Something like that. So working on this final curl, I've come up with the same problem I was going on about yesterday, so I'll show you what I mean. I've got it up to there. So obviously I need to put in this last curve from about there, where that white mark is, upwards. However, just because of the size of my forge, the bits of metal I need to heat up, I physically can't get to the hot spot, no matter how I try and put it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off, and then I'm going to do another, so I'm going to do a fourth bit, which will pretty much be just a slightly curved line. So it's almost a waste, but luckily I still have a piece of bar I didn't use yesterday. So that's all I'll do to fill her up. In fact, it might almost have the right curve in it. Interesting. Might get away with that. So, by pure luck and coincidence, that piece of bar I had was the perfect fit for the end of that loop. All I've had to do is put a very slight double bend in it, and that will now join up perfectly to the bottom of the R going into the curl. So all I've got to do now is cut some pieces down to size and do some welding, and we'll be done. Awesome! And there it is with all the parts cut out. Last step is just to weld it all together. I think what I might do actually is very slightly shorten this bit. It looks a bit strange on here, so I'll probably take another inch and a half out of that gap, and then that'll be it. I'll get to welding. There we go, K and R all done, all welded together. You can obviously see where the joins are. I haven't bothered to clear up on this one. I did do it on the last one. I put it back in the forge and I got it the same colour, but thinking about it, I'm going to be painting it anyway, so I don't really see the point. I can't imagine it will show through. So yeah, that's obviously the last step now, is just to paint it, and then they'll be ready to ship. Just casually hanging my letters out to dry. So that's the first coat done. I'll leave it about half an hour, and then that should be dry enough for the second coat to go on. But it definitely looks a lot better now it's got its first coating. I think they come out pretty well. Pretty happy with them. Cool. There we go, second coat done and all complete. I think they look pretty good, even if they don't decide to behave for the end of this video. But yep, that's it, all done. Just got to hope that the person likes them. What I said, because it was a leaving present, I didn't really charge their value. I charged them £40, and that's literally just the value of the materials. That's the metal, the paint, the coal, the welding electrodes. All of that amounted to around that amount. So I've put my time in for free, and that's my contribution to the present, which I think is fair. So cool, see you on the next one.